Miles felt the added weight of a blanket on him as he slept. He woke up with sleepy eyes to find Ella had covered him. "How did I fall asleep?" Miles asked with a hint of apology. "No worries. Your funeral teaser now only lacks an opening title caption." "What should it say?" she inquired. "Keep it simple. Like, welcome to my funeral." "Regarding this job, what are your personal future plans?" Faced with this common question from the interviewer, Ella's face revealed a subtle, almost imperceptible wry smile. But then, she put on her professional smile and smoothly recited the well-prepared script for her financial career plan. For today's online interview, she deliberately applied delicate makeup. Her black and white attire was both formal and not too rigid, perfectly fitting the industry's characteristics. Her long hair was draped over her shoulders, giving her a gentle and elegant demeanor. Over the past 2 years, Ella had switched jobs 3 times, all related to the finance industry. It was her major in college, and everyone around her considered it a lucrative field. However, she didn't enjoy the cold, sophisticated, and hypocritical nature of the industry. She preferred artistic creation, such as photography, but she knew that passion alone couldn't put food on the table. As a 25-year-old adult, Ella, like most of her peers, knew the moon was right above her head, but she still chose the bitter sixpence under her feet. Each job left her unhappy and unsatisfied, yet she dared not leave this lucrative and respectable industry. This time, she applied for a position in the operations department of a financial media company. She comforted herself, thinking that maybe this job would at least have some connection with creation. The interview was going smoothly, and she thought she was about to receive a new offer until Ella's home door was suddenly knocked on urgently. Ada, open the door." Miles' voice echoed. The interviewer heard it too, and the conversation paused midway. "Ignore him, let's continue." Ella awkwardly scratched her head. Miles, instead of staying in the hospital, had suddenly come a few hundred kilometers away to Hangzhou. What was he up to? With no one opening the door, the knocking gradually stopped. Ella breathed a sigh of relief and resumed discussing the job with the interviewer. Who knew that a few seconds later, Ella's phone rang. It was a video call from Miles. Ella hung up. A few seconds later, it rang again. She hung up, and it rang again. The interviewer kindly smiled. "Do you have an urgent matter? Maybe we can continue this another time." "It's okay. Just a friend." Ella knew this interview opportunity was precious. Once this chance passed, there might not be another. The phone was silent for a few minutes. Then, Ella's window behind her was knocked on. Living on the ground floor wasn't a good idea. Wearing a blue and white striped hospital gown, Miles appeared at the window, clinging to it with a bouquet of baby's breath, Ella's favorite flowers. Awkwardly, he also appeared in the interviewer's view. "Cough, it seems that Miss Ella has something urgent to deal with. Let's talk next time." The interviewer coughed twice and ended the interview call. "Miles." Ella was almost infuriated. She went to open the door for Miles and brought him inside. Miles, in his accustomed manner, changed his shoes, placed the baby's breath in the empty vase on the coffee table. "What are you doing? Why didn't you open the door for me?" "I'm in an interview." "You've ruined my interview." "Another finance position? Isn't it boring?" "In my opinion, you should become a freelancer and focus on photography." Ella rolled her eyes. "Depend on you to support me?" "No, thanks." Miles chuckled as he lay on Ella's sofa, kicked off his slippers, and stretched lazily with a pillow in his arms. Looking at him in his hospital gown, Ella frowned and asked, "Miles, why are you dressed like this? Can't you tell? Just escaped from the hospital. Are you crazy?" Saying this, Ella reached for her phone to call Miles' parents. Ella's and Miles' families had been neighbors for decades. They grew up as childhood friends, and they had planned to work in Hangzhou together after graduating from college. However, before their senior year could end, tragedy struck. Miles was diagnosed with lung cancer. Since then, he has been brought back to his hometown, Gucheng, for treatment. Miles swiftly took Ella's phone. "Don't forget your debt of gratitude. When you used to argue with your parents as a child, you always hid at my place. It's my turn to hide for a few days this time. Don't tell my parents. Can it be the same? Back then, I was just throwing a tantrum. Now you're a critically ill patient. I won't be in a moment." Ella was stunned. "Huh?" The seemingly cheerful expression on Miles' pale, sickly face slowly faded. He pretended to be nonchalant, saying, "The doctor said I have about 2 months left." Ella choked for a moment. The next second, her eyes turned red. Since the day Miles was diagnosed with cancer, she had prepared herself for the inevitable day of saying goodbye to him. However, Miles had consistently cooperated with the treatment, fighting against the illness, enduring for a long, long time. It was so long that she once thought the miracle would continue indefinitely. The doctor said that by intensifying the treatment, I might extend my life for a few more months. But the increased dosage of medications would have noticeable side effects, such as numbing my entire nervous system, leaving me bedridden and confused. I thought about it. In the last 2 months, I want to come out and walk around with a clear mind. So, I refused to continue the treatment. At this point, Miles smiled. Of course, my parents don't want me to stop the treatment. They are probably searching for me all over the world now. Ella knew Miles was a stubborn person. Once he decided something, no one could convince him to change his mind. Have you really thought it through? Ella bit her lip, preventing tears from falling. She knew Miles didn't like it when she cried. Don't persuade me. If I wanted to hear advice or be pitied, I wouldn't have come to find you. You understand me. Ella didn't know how to respond. Miles knew that no matter what he decided to do, she would support him unconditionally. There's something I must do before I die. When I had this thought, you were the first person I thought of. What is it? I want to arrange my own funeral in advance. Why? I've never heard of arranging your own funeral, Ella questioned. Because, it feels like it would be interesting, Miles said with a smile. On the one hand, he wanted to experience this unique life event. On the other hand, he hoped that in his final days, the farewell ceremony would not trap those around him in the bitter countdown to death. He wanted everyone to stay busy and fulfilled, accepting the farewell calmly. Among all the people around him, he was most worried about Ella, who had been a crybaby since childhood. That's why he sought her out first. As an INFJ, Miles had meticulously planned everything. In the next few hours, he explained his overall plan to Ella. Planning a funeral was not like planning a wedding. You only got one chance in a lifetime, unless you fake your death. To make the funeral grand and memorable, Miles scheduled the next 2 months full. Firstly, how to invite friends to attend the funeral. Miles didn't want traditional paper invitations or verbal invitations. Explaining why he wanted to arrange an advance funeral to each friend individually would be too troublesome. He planned to shoot a funeral preview vlog, documenting his thoughts before death and snippets of his life, while briefly explaining his reasons. However, Miles, being a straight guy, struggled even with taking a decent selfie, let alone shooting a vlog. So, naturally, this responsibility fell on Ella. How about it? Can you help me with this task? Miles lay on Ella's bed in the late hours, yawning. I can help, but can you at least ask for help in a more polite way? Ella grumbled, holding the blanket, lying down on the makeshift bed beside. This Miles would always take her bed every time he visited her home, just like she used to do at his place. Next is the second thing. There are many preparations and items needed in advance for a funeral, such as the banquet, mourning clothes, and coffin, etc. This part, I'll think about how to convince my parents to help me prepare. Miles sighed. Ella knew that Miles was his parents' only son. Convincing his parents to support him in this absurd performance art, especially at the cost of giving up treatment, wouldn't be an easy task. Lastly, the third thing is the scene of the farewell ceremony. I need a mastermind to control the situation, down to every detail of the funeral, even the playlist. Also, I need a host, preferably someone more professional. Saying this, Miles turned over, leaning towards the edge of the bed, grinning at Ella. Don't look at me. I'm an introvert. Asking me to speak in public is like asking for my life. Ella covered her head with the blanket. Kidding. I've already thought of the right person for the job, just don't know if he's willing to come. Who? You'll know in a few days, Miles blinked, teasingly keeping a secret. After outlining the rough plan for the funeral, the two fell into a brief silence. It's been a long time since we lay side by side chatting like this, Ella sighed. Men and women can't be intimate, Miles teased. Indeed, it was so much better when we were kids, without having to consider so much. Ah, who knows how quickly time flies, Miles said, suddenly bursting into laughter. What are you laughing at? I suddenly remembered the last time we chatted like this. It should have been the day before the start of college. We talked about what we wanted to do after graduation. I remember you wanted to open a photography studio, traveling the world to take pictures with talented colleagues. Has this dream changed now? No, but dreams are just dreams after all, Ella chuckled. Yeah, unlike me. The dream back then has already been halfway fulfilled. Huh? I recall your dream back then was to live a carefree life, wasn't it? Yeah. The second half of carefree is already being realized, right? Get out. Ella grabbed a pillow and threw it at Miles, who jumped down from the bed and tangled with Ella. In your funeral preview vlog, besides parting thoughts, what other life moments do you want to capture? Let me think. I want to go to an amusement park and try high-altitude rides. Don't joke, you know I'm afraid of heights, Ella weakly said. I'm afraid of death too. I'm almost gone, won't you accompany me? Are we friends enough? Miles deliberately acted spoiled. Most afraid of tough guys acting cute. After a few rounds, Ella eventually raised her hand in surrender and agreed. Ella said, but, you pay for the tickets. Huh? What, huh? I need to save money. Anyway, you're almost gone. Miles grabbed a soft pillow, jumped off the bed, and started a playful pillow fight with Ella. In the following days, Miles seemed addicted to exploring amusement parks and managed to drag Ella to several major ones in Hangzhou. All high-altitude rides, roller coasters, drop towers, bungee jumping, none were left out. Playing through the third round, Miles decided to try the high-altitude transparent cable car. Ella's legs went weak, and she clung to a roadside lamppost, refusing to go any further. Despite coaxing and cajoling for a long time, Miles couldn't convince her. In the end, he had to let Ella wait for him at the entrance. He entered the cable car alone. The cable car cabins were designed for 2 people. Since Miles had no one to accompany him, he had to wait for the staff to randomly pair him with another solo rider. Unfortunately, most visitors came in pairs, and he couldn't find a single rider. Miles stood there like a fool, watching couples board the cable car. At that moment, a female student with a lollipop, dressed in a cartoon hoodie, denim shorts, and bear-patterned socks, approached the staff. I'm here alone. Can I go up first? She asked. Perfect timing. Would you two like to be companions? The staff asked. Sure. The female student glanced at Miles, revealing a friendly smile. She reached out her hand. Just call me Cora. And you? Miles. Miles? The self-proclaimed Cora furrowed her brow slightly, making a joke. Oh, never mind, it doesn't matter. Come on, let's get on. Cora patted him on the back, and both entered the transparent cabin one after another. The cable car slowly ascended. It was sunset, and in the distance, the sky, tinted with orange hues, held a sun resembling a hot spring egg. In this modern city known for its tall buildings, perhaps only at this moment on the high-altitude cable car, could one see such a beautiful sunset. Cora exclaimed, wow, it's so beautiful. Hey, let me tell you, our school has a teaching building, and you could see such a sunset from the rooftop before. But a few days ago, someone jumped off, and the rooftop was closed, such a pity. Oh, I see. Miles responded awkwardly and politely. He just wanted to enjoy the scenery quietly, not expecting his fellow rider to be such a chatterbox. He turned his head to look out of the window. The entire cable car cabin was not only transparent on the sides but also had a transparent glass floor beneath their feet. Although Miles didn't have acrophobia, sitting here overlooking the entire amusement park made him a bit nervous, and his palms were sweaty. On the other hand, Cora, acting like a warrior, lay on the glass floor, not caring about the presence of a stranger. She began to shoot a selfie video with her phone. Wow, the roller coaster looks even more thrilling from this angle, Cora said to her phone. Realizing that Miles was looking at her, she smiled at him. Miles nodded, holding on to the handrail. Mr. Miles, want to take a photo together? My name is Miles. Come on. I'll make room for you. Cora moved aside, creating a space for Miles to lie down. Straight guys really don't know how to refuse. Suppressing his fear, Miles lay down on the transparent glass, maintaining a bit of a safe distance from Cora. Cora didn't mind, leaned towards his shoulder, and, facing her recording phone, said, Hello, Mr. Miles, we are lying in the embrace of the world right now. Is there anything you want to say at this moment? The girl made a fist with her left hand as if holding a microphone and extended it toward Miles's mouth. Whether moved by the beautiful sunset or infected by the girl's overflowing joy and freedom, Miles suddenly felt a bit sentimental. After thinking for a moment, he softly said, Suddenly, I really want to continue living. Cora's smile froze for a second. She turned her head to look at this stranger whom she had known for less than 10 minutes. With an exceptionally serious expression on his face, Miles didn't seem to be joking. During the 20-minute journey in the transparent cable car, Miles shared his medical condition and the thought of organizing a funeral for himself with this extremely curious girl. He didn't know why, at this moment, he felt so inclined to open up. Perhaps, no matter how absurd or heavy life and death were, they seemed to be easily dissolved in front of this easygoing girl. Cora listened, seemingly understanding but not fully grasping. She also introduced herself. She was a post-00s graduate student studying in Hangzhou. Coming from afar, she often visited amusement parks alone because she didn't have many friends in the city, feeling lonely but free. "So, you're going to die soon?" Cora asked. "Hey, don't pity me just because I'm about to die," Miles said with a smile as he saw Cora contemplating outside the window. "What's there to pity? I also have a chance of dying tomorrow, like falling down the stairs and hitting my head, or getting hit by a car when going out." "Phew, what are you talking about?" Miles interrupted her, amused and bemused. Cora, however, was serious. "I'm serious." So, she resumed her lively smile and magically pulled out 2 cans of beer from her backpack. "Let's have a drink today." Miles was genuinely inspired by her vibrant smile. He took a bottle of beer, completely forgetting that he was a terminally ill patient, and raised his glass to the sunset and Cora. Click, Cora captured the moment of their clink. Miles thought, perhaps this photo would be another proof of his existence in this world. After finishing the beer, the cable car journey also came to an end, but the two didn't part ways. It happened to be mealtime, and Cora, Miles, and Ella, with mutual consent, headed to a nearby bar to eat together. Cora ordered a few more cans of sparkling wine, thoroughly embodying the philosophy of Carpe Diem. As the alcohol went down, sitting across from each other, Cora's face slightly reddened. She shook the empty can in her hand and said familiarly, "Miles, what's your next step?" Miles thought for a moment. "I'll go home and edit the funeral preview video. Then, plan the funeral." "Plan? Count me in." "Ha ha ha, don't joke around." "I'm serious, I majored in exhibition planning. It's a perfect match." Miles hadn't expected that in the eyes of someone from the post-00s generation, funerals could be categorized under exhibitions. Test your knowledge. If you were planning your own funeral, what fun ideas would you have? Ella smiled like a teacher, looking at Cora. Cora tilted her head and thought for a moment. "How about adding a disco dancing session? The living have live houses, and the dead have die houses. Isn't it just right?" Cora said earnestly. "And, you can also use it as a gimmick to collect funeral gifts. Early bird tickets for $299, regular tickets for $399, and purchasing a VIP ticket for 555 yuan will even get you a handwritten blessing from the deceased. How about that?" Miles and Ella were stunned for a moment, and after a brief glance at each other, they exclaimed in unison, "What the heck? Can it be done like this?" No kidding, the post-00s generation really has a tight grasp on creativity. Since organizing a funeral for oneself is already quite absurd, why not embrace the absurdity fully? Miles, with a promise of providing 2 meals a day, generously invited Cora to become the chief planner for his funeral. She was responsible for all the preparations of farewell ceremony supplies and the design of on-site procedures. Cora was happy to spend time with the 2i people every day in the city where she lacked friends, recharging herself through their company. So, Ella's small rented apartment became the office for the trio. Cora, who was getting closer to both, began to reveal her lively and mischievous nature, dragging Miles and Ella around the city, exploring every inconspicuous corner. Fortunately, this also provided Ella with an abundance of material for the vlog she was working on. During these days, Miles's mother called Ella, but Ella discreetly kept Miles's condition a secret. However, despite Miles appearing energetic every day, his increasingly haggard complexion and growing exhaustion signaled life gradually slipping away from his body. The times Miles sneaked into the bathroom to cough up blood became more frequent. Although Ella didn't expose it, she secretly prepared some medicine for him and slipped it into his pocket. Miles obediently and tacitly took it. Sometimes, when editing became tiring, Ella would rub her eyes and lift her head. In the dim light of the living room, Cora, munching on potato chips, told jokes to Miles, and the two burst into laughter from time to time. For a moment, Ella wished time could freeze at this very moment so that she could keep Miles by her side forever. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Miles, with his full J personality, finally remembered to organize a 3-person meeting to formally confirm the preparation progress for the funeral. Ella's trailer went very smoothly, but the main issue arose with Cora. First, the coffin. "This shouldn't be difficult to prepare, right?" Miles asked. "I've already got that covered. We just need to pick it up at the store when the time comes," Cora confidently said. "Which store did you order it from?" "I ordered it on Shenyu, Idle Fish." Ella was shocked and almost sprayed out the coffee she had just sipped. "Wait, you bought it secondhand?" "What secondhand?" The seller put up a brand new coffin on Xianyu. It has been lying in the store since they survived a car accident. Miles's brain buzzed after hearing this. Cora, seeing the unbelieving expressions of the two, quickly opened Xianyu on her phone and showed them the chat box. Indeed, a 98% new coffin, local face-to-face transactions, and she had even completed the order. In the chat box, the seller's message caught their attention. Little sister, you're really kind. When I posted this thing on Xianyu, I never thought someone would actually buy it. Loudly crying face thumbs up. Seeing Miles turn green, Ella couldn't help but laugh out loud. What about the burial clothes? You didn't buy secondhand for that, did you? No, I didn't. I got it on Taobao for 39.9 yuan, including shipping. Oh, by the way, the only downside is that you can't choose the color, it's sent randomly. Miles almost couldn't catch his breath. Oh my, Cora, is this how you do planning? Cora looked innocent. Is there a problem? Isn't it you who said to keep it simple? What's wrong? Don't you like this style? Ella was nearly laughing to death. She laughed and leaned on Miles's shoulder. Just thinking that you might end up wearing a pink burial gown in the coffin, I feel embarrassed for you. What about the hearse? You're not going to get me a Wuling Hongguang, are you? Miles took a deep breath, silently telling himself to lower his expectations this time. No matter how absurd, he should be able to accept it calmly. I have a car, it's a green energy liquid-cooled electric car. Anyway, you're going to the funeral site alive. What does it matter what you ride? Miles's vision blackened, and he almost passed out. What's wrong? If you want to add some ceremony on the road, why not pretend to be dead and lie on my back? Ella laughed until her stomach hurt, rolling on the floor. Cora, you're truly refreshing my impression of the post-00s generation. You're practically a genius curator. After this meeting, Miles' attitude towards organizing his own funeral went from serious to casual. Oh well, thinking about the possibility of lying in a second-hand coffin wearing a pink burial gown and attracting everyone's attention, it seemed quite artistic. Even inviting a second-hand Rose to sing a couple of songs wouldn't match this scenario. Besides, he hadn't seen Ella laugh so happily in a long time. So, let her have her fun. After all, the original intention was to have a good time. A few more days passed, and Ella finished editing the funeral trailer. Once the trailer was done, another matter had to be moved up the agenda, inviting friends to attend the funeral. Besides Ella and Cora, the first good friend that came to Miles' mind was his college roommate, Luke. He opened Luke's WeChat chat, sent the trailer, and was about to type a few words while waiting for the video to load when Luke suddenly called. Miles answered, "Hey, I was just about to talk to you." Luke on the other end burst into laughter. "Buddy, I think my news might be more important this time." "Well, that's not necessarily true. Let's compare." "Sure, I'll go first. Guess what? I'm getting married." As Luke finished speaking, the funeral trailer was sent, untimely. Miles was stunned for a second and quickly pressed the recall button. "Miles, if your health allows, you must come. I'll reimburse your plane ticket. The wedding invitation will follow shortly." Miles silently smiled and replied, "Sure, I'll definitely come." "Great. By the way, what did you want to talk to me about just now? You're not getting married too, are you? With Ella? Don't joke. I just wanted to talk when we meet in person." A few days later, Miles embarked on the journey to Coconut City. Ella and Cora, concerned about his health, also joined the trip. Miles joked that having an old friend with a gap year and a new follower, who was always ready to tag along, made his originally quiet journey quite noisy. For Miles, Coconut City was filled with memories from his college days. On the first night of arrival, Luke invited him to attend his carefully prepared last bachelor night party. Several close college friends gathered, revisiting the small shops near the school gate, playing games at the internet cafe, and enjoying arcade games at the game center. They even went for a boat ride at the seaside. Throughout the day, they revisited almost all the shared memories from their student days. Playing until the early hours, Luke, using a borrowed student card, led the remaining friends into the alma mater. Borrowing a football, they played under the moonlight, lying on the grass drinking and chatting when tired. Luke was acquainted with Ella. During college, Ella often visited Miles, so she had shared several meals with Miles' roommates and interacted with them. As the night wore on, Cora was pulling Miles' arm, and the two were playfully competing for the soccer ball, accompanied by loud laughter and banter. Luke opened a new bottle of wine, sitting next to Ella. "How much time does Miles have left?" Ella hesitated for a moment, giving a bitter smile. Miles' deteriorating health was indeed noticeable to those close to him. "Probably a month." As expected. Every time I video called him before, he always pretended to be happy. This time, he's really enjoying himself. I was thinking either he's recovering, or he's completely giving up the struggle. Ella nodded without saying a word. But his current happiness is definitely not an act. I can tell, Luke added. Not far away, Cora was pulling Miles' arm, and the two were playfully competing for the soccer ball, accompanied by loud laughter and banter. With Cora bringing so much joy, he's happier than before. Look at these two, how well they match, Luke said with a hint of jealousy. Ella took a deep breath and exhaled. What's wrong? Feeling jealous? Huh? Don't pretend. A perceptive person can see that you like Miles, otherwise, why would you come from afar every month to hang out with him? I have friends I've known since childhood, but I've never done that. Ella blushed and lowered her head. What do you mean? Why didn't you confess earlier? I always thought there was plenty of time, and there were many opportunities. I planned to wait until I confirmed that he also had similar feelings before getting together. Then, after he got sick, every day, I thought about encouraging him to keep going. I never thought about this. Until now, it seems like it's too late. Luke patted her shoulder. You're really silly. Miles definitely likes you too. Back then, his sleep talk was all about you, almost sick of us. I guess after he got sick, he didn't want to burden you, so he never thought about this. Ella smiled relievedly after hearing this. Missed opportunities were missed. Luke looked up at the sky and sighed. You two, obviously liked each other, but insisted on enduring it as friends. Look, life is fragile. One moment of endurance, and a lifetime passes. Ella felt a twinge in her nose. She couldn't continue thinking about it and quickly changed the topic. Let's not talk about this. By the way, I heard you're getting married. Miles specially prepared a gift for you. Ella deliberately spoke loudly, and not far away, Miles and Cora walked over playfully. Miles took out a large box wrapped in wedding card paper from his backpack and threw it to Luke. What's this mysterious thing? Luke opened the box, revealing a pair of limited edition Kobe-endorsed commemorative sneakers. Perhaps in the youth of many men, there exists a pair of sneakers so expensive that they cannot afford them. They would skip breakfast, work odd jobs, and cut back on expenses just to save up for it. However, when they finally accumulate enough money to own it, it's no longer available due to its limited release. Trying to buy it from a personal collector only raises the price several times due to its commemorative significance and unique value, making it an unattainable dream for students. For Luke, this pair of sneakers was exactly that kind of existence. He liked Kobe, saved 2 years' worth of pocket money for the coolest Kobe series shoes, but they were discontinued. He tried to buy them from a private seller using his scholarship money, but by the time he got the scholarship, Kobe had left this world, and the price of these sneakers had skyrocketed. Miles smiled at Luke, whose eyes were turning red. You, always liking sneakers and beautiful women. Now that you have a beautiful bride, this is all I can give you. The usually laid-back Luke didn't say a word, he just stood up and gave Miles a tight hug. The next day was Luke's wedding. Having grown accustomed to seeing Luke in sportswear, Miles never imagined this guy could look so handsome in a suit. The bride was also stunning, and the exclamation and cheers from the crowd drowned out the music at the wedding. Miles felt surrounded by a sense of happiness. Perhaps this was the meaning of a wedding ceremony. He hoped his funeral could also have such a magical power to heal others. At the wedding banquet, college classmates were arranged at the same table, except for Ella and Cora, who were there for a free meal. Cora, with her sociable and lively personality, exploded with socializing, leading Miles' classmates in drinking games and rock-paper-scissors, creating a lively atmosphere. Ella, on the other hand, sat quietly next to Miles, laughing together and occasionally stealing glances at Miles' face. She noticed that he also occasionally stole glances at another person at the same table, a guy wearing a well-fitted suit, meticulously styled hair, exuding a tasteful and calm demeanor. Ella learned from others at the table that his name was Chase. Just as she was about to find an opportunity to ask about their relationship, Cora mysteriously called her away. On the other side, halfway through the banquet, Miles felt a severe pain coming from his lungs. His mind briefly scattered, and then he endured the intense pain, excusing himself to go to the restroom. Rushing into the washroom, Miles, in front of the sink, coughed up blood violently, feeling dizzy as if his entire lung was about to be expelled. When he looked up again, he saw a familiar face in the mirror, Chase. He had just come out of one of the stalls. Chase saw the pool of fresh blood and paused, clearly taken aback. But he quickly regained his composed expression and intended to leave. Haha, even in this situation, you won't say a word to me? Miles said weakly, then his legs gave way, and he slowly sat down against the sink. Chase stopped, turned back to look at him, and said, I received your funeral invitation. Honestly, the video was well edited. Miles smiled. Getting such a compliment from Chase was already a high praise. Will you come? He asked. Chase looked down at the toe of his polished shoe, silent. I know I owe you an apology. This time, besides witnessing Luke's happiness, I also wanted to take this opportunity to apologize to you in person. Upon hearing this belated apology, Chase's expression gradually softened. The grievances between Miles and Chase can be traced back to the beginning of college. Miles and Chase were both renowned bookworms in the same major, monopolizing the top 2 spots in grades each academic year and alternating between first and second place. They also consistently took the lead in various cultural and sports activities, competing against each other. Over time, the two naturally had many conflicts. It wasn't until their 3rd year when both signed up for the same national English speech competition that things took a serious turn. At that time, there was only one scholarship for studying abroad in the department, and since both had nearly identical academic achievements, whoever could achieve a better result in the major academic competition would almost certainly secure the scholarship. Chase attached great importance to this rare opportunity. He dedicated 7 or 8 hours each day to studying foreign languages, pulling several all-nighters in the hallway of the teaching building practicing speech techniques. Unlike Miles, who came from a comfortably well-off family, Chase grew up in a small mountain village with limited financial means. This opportunity for a sponsored study abroad program was a life-changing chance for him, one he had to grasp tightly. If he couldn't secure this scholarship, he would likely not have the money to continue paying for graduate studies, forcing him to leave school and find a job to make a living. In the end, however, this chance was taken away by Miles, who had enrolled in several professional training courses and ultimately secured the scholarship with better competition results. What made Chase even angrier was that Miles, after going abroad for 4 months, was diagnosed with lung cancer and was forced to return to China for treatment. Meanwhile, the scholarship had already taken effect and couldn't be transferred to Chase. As a result, Chase missed the most precious opportunity, and after graduation, he became an ordinary office worker, experiencing a series of hardships, walking a much more difficult path in life. In Miles' life trajectory, he might have just wasted a good opportunity. But for Chase, Miles took away a potential, perhaps better, life. I didn't know the competition was so important to you back then, Miles said weakly. At that time, he was concentrated on competing with Chase, never taking the time to understand Chase's family background and difficulties. Chase remained silent for a long time before finally speaking, forget it. Maybe studying abroad would have brought new challenges. I'm just standing inside one fortress envying another. So, have you forgiven me? Miles asked. Chase smiled rarely. I never had the qualification to talk about forgiveness. I just envied that I couldn't beat you anywhere. Chase, you've always been better than me. In my parents' eyes, you were the kid from another family. Gentle and refined, with a cultured temperament. Me? I probably won't learn that in my lifetime. Chase's expression softened, and he finally smiled with understanding. What he needed was not an apology but a sincere acknowledgement from his old rival. Perhaps due to talking too much, Miles started coughing violently again, accompanied by dry heaves. Take care of yourself. How about winning against me in the matter of living well? Chase said, extending his hand toward Miles. Miles shook that hand and stood up again. There's one more thing I need to ask you to do, Miles said. What is it? My funeral is missing a host. Someone who is not only professional in speech and hosting but also familiar with all the honors I've received, big and small, Miles said with a smile. Well, then, probably no one is more qualified than me, Chase replied with a self-deprecating smile. Miles, are you in there? Cora's voice suddenly came from outside the restroom. What's wrong? After Miles tidied up his collar, wiped away the blood from the corner of his mouth, and washed his hands, he walked out. Luke prepared a special gift for you, Cora said, pulling Miles' arm and maneuvering through the crowd back to the wedding stage. The noisy crowd continued to dine. At this moment, however, the gentle piano music suddenly paused. Hello everyone, please set aside your meals for a moment. On this special day, I have prepared a special gift for my best brother, Miles. The noisy chatter slowly quieted down, and everyone's gaze turned towards the center stage where Luke stood. Acquainted friends also looked at Miles with curiosity. Cora, with a mischievous smile, leaned close to Miles and whispered, "I chose the background music especially for you. No need to thank me." Then, with a strong push, she propelled Miles onto the stage. As the music started playing, it was the favorite singer of Miles throughout his student years, Jay Cho, singing "You Are So Believing." Accompanied by the music, the door that was originally meant for the bride's entrance was once again opened. However, this time, it wasn't Luke's bride who walked out but Ella, who had left her seat midway through the event. In Miles' over 20 years of life, he had never seen Ella looking so stunningly beautiful. "I believe so much. Behind me, supporting me, it's you. Always walking beside me. Looking up, waiting for the sunrise. Hearing the sound of birds returning. The one waiting for me is you. Giving me unwavering confidence. Playing the dawn with both hands. Turns out love is so melodious." Miles, who hadn't shed a tear since falling ill, finally cried at this moment. Whether it was due to excitement or the pain in his lungs, his vision started to blur. In the last sight before falling to the ground, Miles saw the girl who had played house with him since childhood, only, this time, she was wearing a pure white wedding dress and walking towards him with teary eyes. When Miles woke up again, he found himself in a familiar hospital room. The familiar decor, the flowers by the window, the familiar scent of disinfectant, all of it reminded him that he was back in the hospital room of his hometown. Surrounded by many people, there were Ella, Cora, Chase, Luke, and his parents. Upon seeing him awake, everyone started bustling around. Ella went to call the doctor, and Cora brought warm water. Chase and Luke each helped Miles sit up and placed a pillow behind his back. "Mom, Dad," Miles looked towards his silent parents. Despite scolding him, his parents couldn't hold back their tears as they turned away. "Oh, right, there's something I want to tell you all." Finally, it was time to convince his parents to arrange an early funeral for him. At this moment, Ella returned with a nurse. She said, "Just rest, don't talk too much. Chase has already convinced your aunt and uncle about the funeral." Miles looked at Chase in astonishment. Chase blinked. Luke chuckled, "With Chase, a reliable and outstanding guy, vouching for you, your aunt and uncle believe him more than they believe you. If I were your dad, I'd trust him over you too." "Well, that's true. Hey, kid, taking advantage of my situation?" Miles jokingly scolded, expressing gratitude with a glance at Chase. "Leave everything to us from now on. Just focus on resting," Ella said. Cora added, "Exactly, listen to Sister Ella and rest well. You can leave the details of the farewell ceremony to me." Initially feeling reassured, Miles nearly jumped in surprise at Cora's last statement. "Cora, I'm not so sure about leaving the part you're responsible for." "Miles." Cora clenched her fist and yelled. The heavy atmosphere in the ward was once again filled with laughter. In the following days, Miles's health deteriorated rapidly, beyond his own estimation. Initially, he could get out of bed and move around, but after a few days, he didn't even have the strength to turn over. He discreetly asked a nurse he had a good relationship with, who informed him that the cancer cells had spread throughout his body. It was almost certain that he wouldn't have the chance to attend his own funeral in person. He didn't know if everyone was aware of this situation. Ella, Cora, and others spent less and less time in the ward, becoming busier with the funeral preparations. Every few days, they would gather in the ward and update Miles on the progress of the funeral arrangements. "Don't worry, all the invitations have been sent out, and the responses have been confirmed. Your popularity is impressive. Many people have bought VIP tickets," Cora said with a grin, handing Miles a stack of letters. "What's this? Since you're just lazing around here every day, why not start signing the two on the VIP invitations? Here, this is the list." Miles took in a sharp breath. "Why are you standing there? I've already collected the gift money for you. If you don't sign, be careful of getting sued for consumer fraud." Seeing Miles provoked by Cora, Ella burst into laughter. Cora, in order to make the funeral lively, even organized a street flash mob in Guicheng. Anyone interested in the funeral could buy discounted tickets to attend. Cora argued that, in our generation of only children, many people might never have attended a funeral, so it could be a good rehearsal, making everyone more at ease with the concept of death. Surprisingly, under the influence of this sociable street performance, quite a few people signed up. As for Chase and Luke, these two guys even applied for work leave to stay in Guicheng and accompany Miles. In their leisure time, they would play the mobile games they used to enjoy together, although Miles often couldn't last a game or two before feeling weak and needing to rest. One day, tired of playing, Miles tossed his phone aside. "Brothers, I have something else I need your help with," but it has to be kept secret. Luke said, "Quit the nonsense, just tell us. I need you to go to Hangchang." Miles pulled out a bank card from under the pillow, which held the pre-sale gift money and all his savings, and shook it in front of the two. After a few days, Ella and Miles' parents finalized the venue in time for the farewell ceremony. Cora specially rented a spacious car for Miles, along with a wheelchair. This way, even if his body couldn't endure standing for a long time, Luke could be the driver, dedicated to taking him to the venue. However, on the third day before the funeral, the most feared thing happened. When Ella woke up by the bedside, she found that Miles had quietly stopped breathing. There were unfinished letters by his side. Presumably, Miles had opened the bedside lamp last night while Ella was asleep and wrote a few sheets in the dim light. Perhaps he knew himself that tomorrow might not come as expected. Ella stood still for a moment. Shortly after, looking at Miles who had already fallen asleep in another world, she lowered her head and left a warm kiss on his lips that had lost their warmth. This was the first and last time they kissed in their lifetime. Ella pressed the call button and then silently got up to walk out of the hospital room. She wanted some time alone. Despite being prepared for this day, her brain was still in chaos at this moment. She only knew that she couldn't shed tears in front of Miles, he couldn't bear to see her cry. So Ella wanted to go a bit further. She passed through the noisy corridor, sidestepped the anxious nurse, left the hospital's main entrance, and walked towards the warm sunlight outside. This world hadn't changed at all because of Miles' departure. The traffic was still congested, the streets were still noisy, and there were still stray cats scavenging near dirty trash bins. Therefore, her life wouldn't undergo any changes, right? Ella consoled herself in this way. So she didn't cry throughout the entire journey. It was only when she turned a corner and looked up to see Cora approaching with breakfast for 3 people that Ella couldn't suppress the pain in her heart any longer. Facing the street, she burst into loud sobs. Miles ultimately couldn't attend his own funeral in person. He couldn't witness that his funeral was held at a mountainside park in Goose City. On the day of the funeral, as people traveled to the ceremony, they witnessed the distant sunset and fiery clouds swirling in the sky. No matter how many winding mountain roads they had to navigate, the sunset and clouds remained, never fading away. It was truly beautiful. Many people attended the funeral, with Ella and Cora leading the proceedings, Chase hosting, and Luke and Miles' parents managing the backstage. Ella chose a touching playlist for Miles as BGM, featuring songs from their favorite artist, Chen Jingfei. One of the songs was called The Vanished Sea, with lyrics like, "The vanished sea approaches me at sunset, as if a night of waiting. Sunset speaks to the swimming fish. After your kiss, I'm no longer afraid of departure." Ella and Cora tried to make the funeral less solemn. They knew Miles wouldn't want to see everyone shedding tears for him. So, Cora indeed bought him a stylish and almost avant-garde pink burial gown, custom-made by a designer. On Miles' casket, Ella invited everyone to paint graffiti representing blessings or memories, or write a sentence or two they wanted to say to him. Soon, the casket was covered in a riot of colors. For example, Ella painted 2 children sleeping back to back, Cora painted a cable car, Luke painted a basketball, and Chase painted a stage and spotlight. These were memories unique to each person and their experiences with Miles. Of course, the most written words were simply, "Goodbye." On the central screen, images of Miles playing and joking with everyone over the past 2 months were played in a loop. Ella had secretly filmed these moments bit by bit during these days, and perhaps in countless days to come, she would lean against her sofa, playing these memories over and over again. "Welcome, everyone, to my funeral." Chase's voice drew everyone's attention. "I apologize because Miles couldn't be here as planned. Allow me to finish the eulogy on his behalf in his own words. Welcome, everyone, to my funeral. 2 months ago, when the absurd idea of organizing my own funeral in advance first crossed my mind, I wasn't even sure if it would really happen. Fortunately, today, this dream has come true. There's a well-known ancient poem that says, 'The seas may be vast, but they are not beyond water unless it's the water of the legendary goddess mountain.' Having gone through this short but drama-filled life, I don't have many things to feel regretful or sorry about. For me, this life has been my mythical goddess mountain, allowing me to leave with contentment. My dream funeral, as absurd as it sounds, is even more extravagant than it is now. I hope this place will be filled with Dragon Balls, manga, and action figures from One Piece. Everyone should wear costumes as bizarre as those worn on Halloween, singing and dancing to atmospheric BGM. I also wanted to personally deliver a stand-up comedy routine to warm up the atmosphere, but considering my limited public speaking skills, I'm afraid I would be outshone by Chase's hosting. I don't want to throw bricks to attract Jade, making myself seem unskilled in comparison. At this point, after years of public speaking practice, Chase, unexpectedly, couldn't control his own emotions and had a slight choke in his voice. I, though just an ordinary person, cherish my family and friends more than anyone else. So, seeing so many people attend my funeral, I am truly happy and moved. The only regret in my life is that I couldn't stay with you a bit longer, couldn't fulfill all the things I wanted to say and do by your side. But promise me, don't cry in front of my grave. Because, borrowing the words of the American poet Mary, I am not there, I do not sleep. I live in the freedom of the burning clouds, in the hallucinations of alcohol, in the hum of a favorite song. Although there is no scientific proof, I believe that human death is just a different way of living, perhaps turning into a quantum state of existence. So, I haven't disappeared, just can't be seen by you. I still exist, everywhere. So, if you miss me, please don't cry, don't speak in front of the cold tombstone. Look up at the clouds in the sky, or have a drink with good friends, or hum a favorite song. This way, I will receive your longing. If there are birds singing in the sky, if alcohol warms your stomach, if a certain song makes you momentarily happy, then it means I miss you just as much. That's my echo from another world. Okay, that's enough, no crying aloud, especially you, Ella. Goodbye, everyone. After the farewell ceremony, the crowd gradually dispersed. The next day, Chase drove Ella and Cora back to Hang City. Throughout the journey, no one spoke. In the evening, the car entered Hang City, but Chase didn't follow the navigation to Ella's home. Instead, he headed in another direction. Ella asked him where they were going. It's a secret, Luke, sitting in the passenger seat, answered first. After half an hour, the car stopped in front of a business park. Chase led everyone into a standalone glass house. The lights came on, revealing various shooting equipment and many expensive cameras in the room. Countless photos adorned the walls on both sides. Chase and Luke silently stood at the door, watching as Ella and Cora approached the two walls. On the right side, the wall was filled with photos of Cora and everyone taken over the past 2 months. There were also many pictures of unfamiliar handsome guys, each photo accompanied by a small note with their phone numbers. A pink sticky note was placed in the center of a photo, bearing Miles' handwriting. Cora, I can only help you up to this point. Believe me, it won't be long before Hang City is filled with good friends. You won't have to go to the amusement park alone anymore. Cora bit her lip, but tears still uncontrollably fell to the tips of her shoes. On the left side, the wall was covered with photos from Ella's DSLR camera and storage cards. Many were portraits of Miles, and many were of Ella herself. At some point, when Ella wasn't at home, Miles secretly copied her photo album and developed those cherished pictures. Miles always remembered Ella's dream of opening a photography studio, and now he fulfilled that wish for her. Another sticky note was on the wall. Ella, I've saved up 6 pence for you. Be brave, look up, and chase your own moon. The entire house seemed to be soaked with tears in Ella's eyes. Unable to see clearly, she randomly took down a photo of the two of them from the wall. After wiping away her tears, she focused on the picture. It was a scene of 8-year-old Miles and 8-year-old Ella playing house on the beach. One played as the dad, the other as the mom, with a small sandhouse in front of them. It was the home they shared in their childhood.